Turn the system over. Remove the 2 rubber feet. Remove the 2 screws that secure the back cover to the chassis. Press, then slide the back cover backward as shown. Lift up and remove the back cover. Remove the 5 screws as marked. Lift the battery up and place it forward as shown. Disconnect the battery cable from the system board. Lift up and remove the battery. Press on the release tabs until the memory module pops up. Lift up and remove the memory module with care. Remove the 2 screws that secure the hard drive to the chassis. Flip the drive over and disconnect the cable connector as shown. Remove the 3 screws that secure the bracket pieces to the drive. Disconnect the microphone cable. Disconnect the audio jack cable. Remove the 4 screws as marked. Disconnect the hard drive connector from the system board. Lift the board out of the enclosure and flip it over as shown. Disconnect the speaker cable. Lift and remove the hard drive board. Remove the single screw, allowing the drive card to pop up. Lift up and remove the drive card. Remove the 2 screws as marked. Disconnect the hard drive connector as shown. Using a probe, pick the microphone out of its socket as shown. Remove the single screw as marked. Unroute the audio jack cable from the guides. Lift the I/O board up and flip it over as shown. Disconnect the audio jack cable. Remove the 2 screws that secure the cable connector to the board. Disconnect the cable connector and remove the I/O board. Release the ZIF connector and disconnect the keyboard cable. Release the cables from the guide as marked. Remove the 4 screws as marked. Disconnect the cable connector. Slide the optical drive out and remove it from the system. Remove the single screw as marked. Remove the retaining piece as shown. Remove the cable connector from the optical drive. Remove the 4 screws as marked to remove the bracket pieces. Disconnect the antenna cables as shown. Remove the single screw, allowing the card to pop up. Lift up and remove the card from the system. Disconnect the single cable from the system board. Remove the tapes that secure the antenna cables to the system board. Remove the 4 screws as marked. Slide the chassis out and LCD assembly is removed. With a probe starting at one side of the bezel, carefully work your way around the display panel and unsnap the bezel from the back cover. Lift up and remove the LCD bezel as shown. Pick the camera out of the enclosure as shown. Disconnect the single cable and remove the camera. Remove the 4 screws as marked. Turn the panel over. Disconnect the signal cable as shown. Lift up and remove the LCD panel with care. Remove the 6 screws that secure the hinges to the LCD back cover. Lift up and remove the hinges as shown. Using a flat-headed probe, peel off the antennas from the LCD back cover as shown. Disconnect the power connector cable. The power button cable and the touchpad cable from the system board as shown. Remove the 3 screws that secure the system board to the chassis. Grasp the PCB by the edges. Lift up and remove the system board with care. Remove the single screw as marked. Using a probe, pick the power button out of the enclosure as shown. Remove the tapes in the marked area to release the cables. Remove the 2 screws that secure the speakers to the chassis. Remove the speakers from the enclosure as shown. Remove the 4 screws as marked. Lift the touchpad up and remove it from the system. Press on the release tabs until the memory module pops up. Lift up and remove the memory module with care. Disconnect the battery cable as shown. Turn the system board over. Peel off the RTC battery as shown. Disconnect the fan cable as shown. Turn the system board over. Release the 4 captive screws, following the order embossed on the heat sink. Lift up and remove the heat sink.